Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today is a great day because this is something that I absolutely love doing. I get to bring you guys another brand new company, a company that you may or may not have heard of. I'm thinking there's probably a pretty good chance you may not have because they are so fresh, they're so new. This is Superreal, and we have our very first figure from them, which is called Rookie the Velociraptor. There are two different variants of the Velociraptor, which you can see here. You have a feathered variant, and there's also kind of a non-feathered variant, but I absolutely love the non-feathered variant because it honestly looks to me like a plucked chicken, and I think it looks so unique and so awesome because of that kind of plucked chicken sort of a look. But the feathered version as well looks really cool. You can see the boxes again have this very nice, very professional look to them with the logo, of course, and then an image of the dinosaur figure contained within. And the figures here, of course, again, being a Velociraptor, you can see the proportions are a little bit different than what you might expect to see on a Velociraptor because they do have slightly exaggerated proportions, something that I had learned about the Superreal brand before even acquiring their figures. But I think, honestly, they both look super cool, and I cannot wait to dive into these because any new company hitting the scene is a great thing. And again, the figure here I think looks really cool. The boxes otherwise don't really have a whole lot else going on when it comes to the front and back because it is basically the same thing. You can see that, it's pretty much mirrored when you turn it around. And then over here you have the Superreal logo. And then here on the back you basically have some information on the company and everything else. That's pretty much the same thing as far as this box goes as well. Pretty much the exact same things. So let's go ahead, pop these boxes open and bring in our Raptors. So one thing I do want to show you guys is just how much foam is actually included in the package. This is just one box of one of the dinosaurs, and you can see there is a massive amount of foam, and then contained within is the raptor figure here. And we'll go ahead and get a look at him in just a minute as we move all this foam out of the way. But you can see it's really safely packaged, so don't expect any damage on your figure in transit. But we briefly changed position here so we can get a look at both of the Raptors. Now here are both variants of Rookie the Velociraptor. Again, you can see a feathered version and a non-feathered version. And they both look awesome, like they really do. And they're very impressive, considering it is this company's first release with no prior figures from them. I'm really quite blown away with how good the sculpts look as well as how good the paint jobs look. They definitely have some really nice looking paint apps to them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check these out with a closer look. So we will begin with the feathered version, and you can see basically what we've got going on here with the head sculpt is a small amount of skin texture in the snout, and then it quickly transitions to feathers as we move back a little further into the head. And another thing you'll be able to take notice to is the fact that we have a lot of color variation on this model. There is just tons going on when it comes to the colors. You can see variations of browns and darker browns, like lighter and darker browns there in the skin textured area. You also have this yellowish coloration here on the top of the snout. And then moving back a little further here into the face, you can see that we begin to pick up with reds, kind of like yellowish tones, like red oranges. There's all sorts of variations of colors here moving back further into the head of the Velociraptor. And you can also take notice to the fact that the nostrils are sculpted out quite nicely here in the tip of the snout, and the skin texture is really well done. Look at how beautiful looking the actual skin texture area here is of this Velociraptor. And that incredible detail honestly doesn't stop, because as you move back here into the face, the feathers as well look really well done, like super highly detailed. And you can see how we kind of start out with sort of like some softer feathering here in the face. It's not super impressive, not super scruffy or anything like that. A little bit more scruffy up here on the top of the head, more so than what we see here on the side of the snout here, actually more like the palate area. But as you move back here into the eye socket, you can see we've got a really nice big eye here for our Velociraptor. It also sports a nice gloss coat. You can see it there shining as I move it, letting the light hit it. Nice big black pupil as well. And then moving back a little bit further here into the head of the Velociraptor, you again have all sorts of variation of color as well as really nice feather detail. Again, it definitely is picking up as far as the scruffiness of the feathers here. You can really see that here on the back of the head. But honestly, that is some super impressive feather detail, even looking up here at the top of the head. When it comes to a company's initial release, this is very impressive when it comes to a detailing standpoint, as well, honestly, as a paintwork standpoint. You can also see some blackish tones picking up here on the lower jaw, moving into the throat and running down the throat actually toward the chest. You can see a seam right there where the head is connected, but it's actually very, very hard to notice, especially from the side. I only really notice it when I look around here in the the underside of the throat, and then moving over here to the side, but it's really, just barely visible, especially when you move back a little bit. So they did do a very good job, I think, when it comes to kind of hiding that seam. But as you move down, again, I really love the colors of this Velociraptor. They've added some really nice variations of colors to it, helping to give it a really nice realistic look, I think. And you can just generally see, again, tons of very impressive detailing when it comes to the movement shown here in the feathers moving down the course of the neck. The raptor has its head kind of like held into the body a little bit, and you can see that they've sculpted it out where it really shows that kind of bend in the neck off quite nicely when it comes to the positioning of the feathers. Moving down here toward the chest region, again, we have all kinds of very scruffy feathering moving through the course of the raptor, and you could see more variations of colors again with orangish and yellowish tones and even reds picking up as we move back up here toward the top of the raptor. And the feather detail, again, continues to look exceptionally well done. Look at how nice the feathers look as you move back here along the course of the body. I just feel like it really has that kind of emu-like feathering that you often see portrayed on dinosaurs. But as you move out here into the arms, you can see the arms are held into the body really quite tight, like the raptor isn't extending its arms at all. But you can see that we do have some nice plumage moving out here into the arms. Again, really well done when it comes to the sculpting of those feathers. And you can also see that we have like this brownish tone running along the feathering leading off of the arm right here, which I think looks really quite nice overall. And as you move down, you can see the hands of the raptor. If we look here from the underside, you can probably make them out a little bit better, but you can see the fingernails as well are sculpted out and painted quite nicely. They kind of like lead to a black tip on most of the fingernails there. But again, really impressive detailing throughout the entire raptor. Like, I'm really quite blown away by how good the feather detail looks on this raptor. And we also, again, have super smooth transitions when it comes to the coloration. As you move back here, again, you can see a little bit more scruffy feathering leading down. As you lead down, you can see some really nice looking skin texture. It's been very nicely dry brushed, so if my camera would focus on it, you can see how nicely dry brushed it is. So it really highlights the skin texture, the scale detail moving down into the feet. Again, really nicely sculpted nails, and you can even see like variation of color to the nails. It looks like maybe there's been some washes added and everything. Very nice sickle claws as well over there. And again, you can see how they've kind of dry brushed the scale detail out very realistically here in the feet of the raptor. Definitely a big fan of what I'm seeing when it comes to the very high quality paintwork of this model. You can also see that we have like some scoots running down the toes as well. Again, like you would expect to see, there are also dew claws over there, so that's a huge plus. And then as you lead back out here into the tail, you start to kind of get like a striping effect, sort of, with like a variation of brown moving out, but we continue to also have those orange and yellowish tones moving out here through the length of the tail. And the feather detail continues to look really quite nice as you lead out. You've got a really nice curve to the tail of the Velociraptor here, and you do have a little bit of extra feathering here, kind of some nice tail feathers out here at the tip of the tail that, again, it does end in a brownish tone. And if you look here along the underside, yes, you even have quite a bit of color variation here moving along the underside of the Velociraptor. And then, of course, if you look over here at the opposing side, you're going to see pretty much the same thing. The raptor's positioning isn't super different over here compared to what we see on the initial side, except for the head. You can see the head obviously is turned quite a bit to the left, so you can definitely see that here portrayed in the sculpt. And you can also see again that the eye is painted really nicely. Definitely some beautiful paint work here in the eye, and also again that nice gloss coat. Lots of color variation moving through. Exceptionally well done when it comes to the paint and detailing standpoint. Like, you can see that the feather detail again looks incredible. We do have the kind of branding here for the figure down underneath the arm on this side. You can see this arm is actually held back just slightly further than what we see on the opposing arm there. But again, the feather detail, look how nice that looks. Like, it's really highly detailed, really like inconsistent as far as the way it appears. Like, it looks like it's much more alive than a model because it has those inconsistencies in the feathers like you would actually see on a real living Velociraptor. So really nicely done as far as that goes when it comes to, again, the realism aspect. And we also, again, have that really nice looking foot sculpt over here, just like we had seen on the initial side. Very nicely done when it comes to that. And then again, you lead out into the tail. And obviously, as you can tell, and like I had stated earlier, and like Superreal themselves will tell you, they kind of have slightly like exaggerated proportions on the raptor, kind of giving it that super real style, which I really do quite like. But at the same time, it almost gives it kind of like a baby velociraptor type of a look, which I actually really like, because you know, you can see like you have that slightly larger head, kind of larger feet and stuff, so almost giving it like a very young velociraptor type of a look, which I really think is quite cool, something we don't see very often. And then you also have the plucked chicken version here, because again, you have the featherless version, and again, I really feel like it looks really cool, but at the same time, it honestly looks like they took the velociraptor and they just plucked all of its feathers off, and we can see what it looks like entirely now underneath. And I really feel like that's kind of what their motivation was, because if you look at the raptors together, specifically one of the key giveaways for me that make me feel like it's the same raptor but now with the feathers plucked is the fact that the coloration of the skin textured area matches perfectly. You can see the dark brown and the yellow and everything. Same thing that we see for this one. The coloration of the feet is also, again, pretty much exactly the same. So this is what our raptor would look like now if we pulled off all of its poor feathers. But the detailing, again, looks incredible as you move through. The eyes are, again, nicely glossed, and you can see such smooth transitions when it comes to the colors. Really nice actual application of the paint. You can see lighter tones of, you know, like tannish tones or light browns, and then also the darker browns. And all of the skin texture is extremely well done as you move through. You can see all kinds of creasing and everything here, moving down the course of the neck and down into the throat with the raptor having its head turned to its left. You can really see, again, that all of the movement is shown off really nicely through the course of the raptor, and you can see that as you continue to move down here into the chest region and then back up and toward the back. You can see creasing here in the joint of the elbow of the raptor. Again, we're missing all of the feathers now because they've been plucked from our poor velociraptor. But moving along the back, you see all kinds of skin wrinkles, skin creases, and everything. Again, that really nice darker brown tone moving out here along the length of the body into the tail. You can see it taper off as we move out into the tail briefly, as we have that lighter tone before it picks back up with another variation of brown out here toward the tip of the tail. And you can see again that the detailing here of the feet and everything looks really nice. And then as you move back up, you can see all the skin wrinkles and creases and everything moving through the course of the body. You can also really pick up on the muscle definition in both the calf and thigh as you lead back up. You can get a much better look at what the hand looks like now without the feathers kind of hiding it and obscuring it, and how long those raptor fingers are here. And also get a better look, I think, at the nails, because they as well aren't really obscured by the feathers. And as you move through, again, you can see what this side looks like. So, very interesting idea. That's not something I've ever seen in my entire life, is a, you know, we've seen tons of raptors that are kind of, you know, like scaly raptors. I've never seen a raptor figure that looks like this, where it almost looks like it's been kind of plucked of its feathers, a featherless version in this sort of style. So, kudos to Superreal for coming up with something that's very different than what you usually see. And in my opinion, the key to success in this day and age when it comes to dinosaur models is having something that's going to stand out, something that's going to be unique, and that is absolutely what you have here with this raptor specifically. But honestly, I think both are very quite unique. I don't know that I've ever seen raptor figures that look like this. At the same time, kind of having that more scientifically accurate look, they also have their own individual kind of stylized version. And I really am, again, very impressed with both of these. I think for a first release, this is quite awesome. Now, as far as the size goes, I believe the raptors are probably the same size. You know what? Actually, we'll go with the feathered version, because the feathers may, you know, increase the size of the end of the tail slightly. So for a length on the feathered version of the raptor, you are looking at right around 8 inches or 20 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the head, about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Superreal Velociraptors here, showing you that they are pretty small, but at the same time, they don't have like a size that's too small. You know, they're probably like a good medium size range, I would say, which for this type of figure, I actually think is quite nicely sized. I feel like they definitely did almost a perfect job of choosing the size where it's not too big, it's not too small, it's like right there in almost that perfect size range. And then when it comes to other comparisons, you know, this might be a little bit of a tough one to figure out comparisons for because I don't really have any figures that are like this. You know, they're very different, they're very unique, but we'll go ahead and bring in a few different versions of Velociraptors to kind of give you an idea of a size. So first of all, we have a Mattel Velociraptor, and you can see that they're not too far off when it comes to a size between these two. Fairly similar overall. I think the Superreal versions would win this round as far as like body mass goes, but as far as overall size goes, they're very similar. Then when it comes to a Beasts of the Mesozoic Velociraptor, we have one here next to the Superreal version. Again, giving you an idea of the size. Obviously, the Beasts of the Mesozoic version is a little bit bigger than the Superreal versions, but if you happen to have one of those Raptor series releases, this might help to give you an idea of the size as well. We've also got ourselves an old school Papo Velociraptor here, showing off the size. Again, the Papo one's a little bit smaller, I would say, maybe not so much in height, it's a little bit taller, slightly maybe. But again, body mass definitely goes to the Superreal version. We've also got the Papo Feathered Velociraptor here, again for yet another comparison to show off the size between these two. Funny that we have a non-feathered and feathered version of the Superreal Raptor, and we also have the same thing going on when it comes to Papo, although the Papo version has more of a scaly look rather than that kind of plucked feathered sort of a look that this Superreal version has, which, again, I really can't get over how unique and cool that is, but again, another comparison to hopefully give you an idea of the size here. Then we have a size comparison with the Safari Ltd Feathered Velociraptor, again, giving you a pretty good idea of the fact that these Superreal versions definitely have a fairly decent size to them. Then if you happen to have the old Mojo Fun Velociraptors, again a scaly version, we have another comparison here with one of those. And then for one final comparison, we have the randoms with the Safari Ltd Tyrannus, Collect a Dimetrodon, and Schleich Diabloceratops, just to iron out one final comparison. So these brand new Superreal Velociraptors are definitely quite fun overall. I'm very impressed when it comes to the sculpting and paintwork aspect of these figures. Again, you have to take into consideration this is the company's very first figure, and honestly, I would say this is a really good figure for a company that's been established for years. So it's super impressive to see a company, a brand new company on the scene with such a really cool very first release. The sculpt, again, is very highly detailed. No matter which version you look at, you have a really highly detailed sculpt. The feathered version has extremely impressive feather detail through the course of the entire figure. There is tons of fine detail, as well as all kinds of like inconsistencies in the feathers that would, really be on a Velociraptor. It wouldn't look exactly the same way on both sides of the Raptor. So again, the fact that the feathers all have life to them really helps to add an element of realism overall to the figure. And the same can pretty much be said when it comes to the skin texture of the non-feathered version. Again, it has a lot of really nice kind of skin wrinkles and skin creases and stuff through the course of the entire figure to really show off, again, that movement and highly detailed appearance. And on top of that, they both have extremely impressive paintwork. When it comes to the feathered one, I really love the tones of color chosen on it. It has a nice flashy look, but at the same time a naturalistic look. The non-feathered version as well has, again, pretty much the exact coloration you would probably expect to see if you plucked all the feathers off of the feathered version and then had that non-feathered version. And it's so cool that they created that non-feathered version with the appearance of that kind of like plucked feathered sort of a look, because normally when someone would create a non-feathered Velociraptor, would have that kind of Jurassic Park sort of a look with a scaly kind of skin texture, and that's not really what we see on this one, which makes this one, again, probably one of the most unique Velociraptor figures I think I've ever seen. I also like that even though they look very similar as far as the stance goes, like the legs are kind of in a similar position, the tail and arms are. The heads actually are in a slightly different position. They're definitely tilted, not exactly in the same way. The feathered version has a bit of a stronger turn to the neck, more so than the non-feathered version. They also both balance really well, like exceptionally well done when it comes to the balance of the figures. They kind of have a little bit of life even to the stance, because you can see one foot is sort of lifting up off of the ground, almost like the raptor is about to take a step, which I also like. And the fact that, again, these kind of have somewhat exaggerated proportions makes them pretty fun and unique and different from most figures. And I also think it kind of gives them almost like a younger Velociraptor kind of a look, like, kind of a hatchling sort of, but not really, maybe a little bit older, a juvenile kind of a look for the Velociraptors, which I also like. So there's definitely a lot to enjoy about these figures. And again, when it comes to a brand new company on the scene, that's something I'm always excited about, especially when you get a figure as cool as these. So if you are interested in picking these up for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that. And I also will include a link in the description to where you can check Superreal out on Instagram. Actually, all of their social media accounts will all be down in the description, even their Twitter account if you happen to have Twitter. So make sure you check the links in the description. Go grab yourself some of these really cool Superreal Velociraptors and help support a brand new company so we can get all kinds of really cool figures from them in the future. And make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.